Douglas Luiz is one of the players that has been linked to Arsenal, and guess what? The transfer guru Fabrizio Romano has something to tell us, we the people who enjoy the transfer window, and who is topping Arsenal's list. It's none other than Douglas Luiz, and Arsenal want to sign him in the January transfer window. Will it be possible? We're here to obviously see whether this will come to pass. Welcome to the Rokani Media Football. This is the Football News Show. Smash like button, comment and share. If you're watching us for the very first time, endeavor to subscribe to this channel so as not to miss out on stories that we do upload in here on a daily. Dusan Vlahovic scored yesterday and put Juventus ahead before Lautaro Martinez levered, and the game ended 1-1 in Turin as Juventus hosted Inter Milan there. And the manager, Allegri, has gone ahead and obviously acknowledged the goal and the effort of Vlahovic yesterday night. And Bentancur injury has been explained to us by the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, that is Ange. So it's a Monday. I hope you guys are really heading to work. You know, those that are at work, those that are still at home, and those that are really having problems. We thank God. So we really call upon the healing hand of the Lord, to obviously see that you guys get healed. The Muslims, Barakallahu fikum, and may Allah see you through in all your endeavors. Now, for the past 1 month, Douglas Luiz has been the story. I think I've gone ahead to do a story here onto this channel about Douglas Luiz to Arsenal. And we all know that with the Premier League teams voting that they can obviously get players on loan from the clubs that are under the same ownership, that obviously poured cold water onto the transfer that would have seen Arsenal getting Ruben Neves into the January transfer window. And guess what? Now all their efforts are onto the player called Douglas Luiz. And Fabrizio Romano, speaking to the court offside, has got the following to say. Douglas Luiz is top of Arsenal's list as they explore the midfield market. However, it's important to clarify that at this point there is no asking price because Villa insists they want to keep Douglas Luiz in January. He's a key player for them, so it would take an important bid for Arsenal to convince Villa and to sign Douglas Luiz in January. It's not easy, but for sure he remains one of their top names in the list for that position, considered a top player. Now, this speaks volumes. Arsenal want to sign Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa, right? But Aston Villa haven't gone ahead to put up an asking price for Douglas Luiz. Douglas Luiz went ahead to extend his contract 4 more years, that is in the January of 2022. Remember, Arsenal wanted to sign him in the summer of 2020. I think it was the summer. When was it? I think that's when Erik ten Hag came in at Man United. I think it was the summer of 2022, and they went ahead to obviously want to sign him. Arsenal made 2 bids, they are rejected, and they obviously moved on. In January of 2023, Douglas Luiz signed a 4-year contract at Aston Villa. And since then, the rest has been history. He has gone ahead to put in performances that everyone is really, really, really very, very admiring. And I think he's a very good player. That's why Mikel Arteta is really interested in the player. And Arsenal have gone ahead to keep a track record on really signing players that Arteta once worked with at Manchester City. Douglas Luiz was one of those players that he worked with at Manchester City way back, and Manchester City sold him. Right now he's at Aston Villa, and right now his value is like at 60-70 million pounds. And if at all you ask me, can Arsenal put up a price tag that can obviously move the side of Aston Villa? I tell you yes. And Douglas Luiz wants to join Arsenal. Trust me, he wants to join Arsenal because there is a place in that midfield for him. Arsenal's midfield will obviously be very, very strong if we're having Declan Rice playing as a single pivot, Douglas Luiz playing as a box-to-box midfielder alongside Martin Odegaard. He's good at set pieces. If I told you watch the game of Aston Villa yesterday, how do they score the equalizer against Tottenham Hotspur? It's because of his curling effort from almost the center, all half of the pitch. That's where he obviously delivered that ball, and Pau Torres headed it into the back of the net. This man has gone ahead to have a tremendous season at Aston Villa. He has gone ahead to play 13 games in the Premier League. He has scored 5 goals and has gone ahead to put up 2 assists. This is Douglas Luiz for you, and he is non-stopping. He is non-stopping, and that's why Arsenal want to obviously run for this guy. And remember, last season he played 37 games. He scored 6 goals and 6 assists. And for a player who is a midfielder playing a team like Aston Villa, that is really huge. But it looks like he's going to double everything that he did last season in the Premier League. He might score 12 goals and he can put in 12 assists, because it looks like he's on fire and everything is going on as planned. But there is a hinge. Aston Villa don't want to sell, and they're insisting that they want to keep this player. And I was doing a certain video yesterday and I hinted about how Aston Villa can get £300 million from 3 players. That is Douglas Luiz, Oli Watkins, and Moussa Diaby. Trust me, if Arsenal is to win the trophy this season, as they're on top with 30 points, they need a midfielder like Douglas Luiz. That is it. They need him immediately. He's Premier League proven, and he will add onto the numbers. He'll add onto the numbers in as far as goals are really concerned. For example, he will be the exact replacement of Granit Xhaka, because Xhaka had the energy, right? He was scoring goals and was putting in assists. Douglas Luiz is more talented than Granit Xhaka. His energy is really real and great, good at set pieces, and he has gone ahead to obviously show us that he can thrive into the final third of the pitch, and that's exactly that Mikel Arteta wants. And the most important bit of it all is press resistant, and he has gone ahead to get into the Brazilian national team because of his performances in there for you. And for Arsenal and Brazilians, it looks like they've gone ahead to do what we call a blood pact with the Brazilian players, because ever since Edu came in through at Arsenal, he has gone ahead to sign more Brazilian players than any other players from any country. I can name them. Pablo Mari, though he's Italian, but he is having Brazilian blood in him. Martinelli was brought in by Edu. Then Gabriel Magalhães, Willian, Marquinhos, Gabriel Jesus. He has gone ahead to sign 6 Brazilian players at Arsenal. And obviously, Douglas Luiz will love to obviously come in through and obviously play at Arsenal. And these players that he plays with at the national team, Gabriel Magalhães, Gabriel Jesus, and Gabriel Martinelli, will obviously go ahead and obviously try to convince him to join Arsenal. And they are going to do it. These 3 players of Arsenal are going to act as agents to convince this player to come in through and obviously join Arsenal. And if at all Arsenal has the money, trust me, they can obviously lure Aston Villa into their trap and obviously accept the money. Trust me, Arsenal showed me a lot of intent last season in January, especially the January transfer window of 2023, when they went ahead to obviously put up how much it was. Arsenal they first put up £86 million to sign Modric. The deal failed. They put up £80 million to sign Caicedo, meaning that Arsenal can sign an £80 million player in the January transfer window, and that might be this guy, Douglas Luiz. Because when you look at the players that Arsenal are really missing, I think there are 2 players they are missing into their team. They are missing a player like Douglas Luiz, and they're missing a player to obviously compete with or cover up for Bukayo Saka. And if at all they get those players, then I think no team is going to match Arsenal. They'll win the league. If they bring in Douglas Luiz, that means he's going to come in through and really add close to 15 goal contributions in assists and goals. Then, if they get another player that can obviously play on the right attacking side of the midfield, Bukayo Saka plays, like Pedro Neto, then everything will be really coming to pass and to where Arsenal wants it to play. Because Pedro Neto has gone ahead to create 7 assists in the league, and no one else has gone ahead to score that much of assists than him. So it shows you exactly what this man is bringing onto the table. And the other huge important fact about Douglas Luiz that most of you should note is this. Douglas Luiz has not been injured since the 2018-2019 season, and he's only missed 7 games in his whole career due to injury. That's what Arsenal need, an Iron Man. So Douglas Luiz has a lot of time he has spent on the field of play than he has spent out of play. You know, he can play as a CDM, he can play as a box-to-box midfielder, and if at all you're looking in for replacement to come in through and obviously do the job for Thomas Partey, Douglas Luiz is in there. And for Arsenal, they have to recruit a midfielder in the January transfer window to see to it that they can go for 2 more during the summer transfer window of next year. Do you know why? They are going to lose 3 midfielders. That is it. They are going to lose 3 midfielders. El Nini, I don't think Arsenal are going to give him a new contract. Thomas Partey is going to be sold because he's a liability to Arsenal. He's not a variable, you know. He's an injury-prone player, and you'll need a player who is physically fit. Then there is Jorginho, another player that might move on because Arsenal might not even extend his contract. So, as it stands, you cannot go ahead and really replace 3 midfielders during the January transfer window. That is it. All you have to do is during the summer transfer window. All you have to do is get one in like they did and got in Jorginho, you know, in the January transfer window of 2023, and in the summer transfer window of 2023, they got in Declan Rice and Kai Havertz. So they're going to use the same system or the same blueprint. They'll get in one that is really world class and then go for 2 more in the summer transfer window. And trust me, Arsenal might be one of the busiest teams in the January transfer window because they might be looking in for centre forward, they might be looking in for a right winger, and they might be looking in for a central midfielder. And they can obviously go for all of that to strengthen their squad such that they create space for more players to come in through, especially in the midfield during the January transfer window. And more targets are being linked to Arsenal, and the deal course will obviously come in through and obviously show you what Arsenal is going in through. But Fabrizio Romano has gone ahead and confirmed to us that he is considered a top player. Arteta considers this guy a top player, and even Edu loves Douglas Luiz and is one of those players topping the list of Arsenal midfielders to sign in the January transfer window. He's an Iron Man, and he is what Arsenal really want. Let's go to Italy. Yesterday night, Dusan Vlahovic was on target, and he scored that opening goal, and then Lautaro Martinez leveled. But that game ended 1-1, but him being on target in that big game between Inter Milan was really important. And the manager, Allegri, has gone ahead to obviously come out and really commend his dues. He has said, Dusan played the best game since he arrived at Juventus. He played alone because Chiesa was playing very wide. I'm very happy because he has not played in the last 2 months, but he has trained well. He's only 23 old and he has to grow, but he has time. Now, for Dusan Vlahovic, one of the biggest undoings of his career ever since he came in through at Juventus have been injuries. When he was at Fiorentina, he was not getting injured, but I can really understand. Sorry about that. I can really understand the cause of that. The cause of that is simple. The cause of that is the change in intensity and levels of training. That training at Fiorentina is not the same training at Juventus. Juventus is a top team, and they can obviously go in for high intensive training that can obviously see a player get injured because of him not getting used to this. But I really understand that he's a very top player, and when it comes to obviously killing off games, this guy does it better than anyone else, and he puts in a shift that is really very recommendable. And let no one lie to you that this guy is not good to go. He's good to go, and he's really doing lots of things as a player. Dusan Vlahovic was one of the players that Arsenal wanted to sign, and he obviously snapped them into Juventus. And I think right now he's regretting, because I think would have gone ahead to be a top player at Arsenal, than at Juventus, but at Juventus things have gone ahead to obviously turn around, and Juventus is struggling left, right and center, but all I can confirm to you is that he's really trying to see to it that he puts in very many balls at the back of the net. And this season in the Serie A has gone ahead to play 11 games in the Serie A, 5 goals and 1 assist. And last season he played 27 games, 10 goals and 2 assists. Yet when he was at Fiorentina, you know, he had scored 17 goals in 21 games and 2 assists. So it shows you that there is a huge drop-off in the game of Dusan Vlahovic at Juventus, but the manager is really defending him that he really has a lot of room for improvement, and we wait and see how that is going to obviously pan out in here onto the Rokani Media Football. And lastly, let's talk about Rodrigo Bentancur. Rodrigo Bentancur has been out for close to 8 months ever since he obviously got an injury, and I think it was a knee injury, and he underwent a surgery. But yesterday, as they lost to Aston Villa, he really went down on the pitch, and it's another injury that Spurs have gone ahead to succumb to, and Ange has gone ahead and obviously issued an update on this guy's injury. Said not sure it's his ankle. I think it wasn't a great tackle. I thought he started the game so well. That's the last thing we need, another injury. Obviously, if you are a Spurs fan and supporter, all you wouldn't need is another injury. Spurs are really having lots of injuries, and that is Rodrigo Bentancur crying in pain down onto the pitch. Now, Spurs are really having an injury list. I think James Maddison, Van der Ven, and Richarlison. So, if there is, I think, Metasa, and now Rodrigo Bentancur. So, it's really hard for them to obviously compete. They've gone ahead to lose 3 games, 3 Premier League games consecutively. 4-1 against Chelsea, it was a loss. 2-1 against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and 2-1 against Aston Villa. So these injuries are really the last thing that Ange Postecoglou should obviously see. And you're going to have to build a very good first 11, but a first 11 doesn't really take you to where people really insinuate that Spurs would be. A first 11 doesn't take you miles, all places, but it helps you to obviously gate to really have some good matches. But when you get injuries, obviously your plan is obviously sabotaged. And right now the plan of Ange Postecoglou is sabotaged, and I don't know whether he's going to be given an open check in the January transfer window. But we wait and see how that pans out. So your thoughts on Douglas Luiz topping Arteta's list of midfielders in January are welcome in the comment section below. What do you make about Vlahovic and the manager of Juventus saying that he still has more time to obviously improve and turn into a better player? And lastly, what do you make about Rodrigo Bentancur's injury that has gone ahead to see Ange Postecoglou left speechless and in fear as more and more players are really getting injured? May the living to God bless you abundantly. Rokani David remains my name, and the Muslims, Barakallahu Fikum. See you later.